In Underhanded, the new novel by Jim Billman, Sonny Kristoff shares his adventures during the changing times after World War II with a refreshing inside-out look at history. Written from the perspective of men's fast-pitch softball, this was the time when baseball's little brother became America's most popular team sport. But unlike baseball, its imperfect dimensions brought about its demise. Order Underhanded on Amazon. Underhanded by longtime Southeast Iowa native Jim Billman. Available now.
Welcome to this edition of More Getting Asked For podcast. A little bit late tonight, so we're going to call this one, Basketball After Dark. We wanted to wait until after the Iowa State men played and then the Hawkeye women played as Caitlin Clark inches closer and closer to Pistol Pete Maravich's all-time Division I scoring record. 17 points shy. She had a great night. I think she had 33 tonight. Yep, on my notes here, 33 points. Great. Just shooting night overall for the Hawkeyes, scoring 108 points, 108-60 was the win. The game was never in doubt. They started off really on fire. I watched it for about 2 minutes at the start, and then I went back and forth with the Iowa State men and then the Cyclone women. So this is we're gonna get to all the basketball stuff, but this is what the next thing that has to get figured out in this technology thing. So we've all went to streaming and we've all went to apps. Now, like cable, we've got to figure out how to go from app to app on the phone or on your TV, on a remote. Somebody's got to figure that out. And that's the next step in streaming TV, is to go from the Peacock app to the ESPN Plus app. And then even within the ESPN Plus app, without having to hit back and then enter back in to get from the Iowa State men to the Iowa State women. So it has to, we got to get a back button, a channel changer, or an app button or something. That's the next thing. Don't you think, Trev?
A universal remote for the apps, which there might already be one out there, but
there probably
is. But if there's not, you've got a good idea on your hand here. Yeah. Cause if you're trying to switch back and forth from Peacock to ESPN Plus, I use Hulu a lot. Some people have YouTube TV. That maybe there's an easy way to do it, but it sounds like you and I are maybe not. We don't know how to do it, or we're not smart enough.
I don't think you can from even obviously YouTube TV and Hulu is like a cable. I mean, so you can go from if the game was on CBS to NBC or just regular ESPN to NBC, yeah, you can change the channel on Hulu, YouTube TV, Dish Network. Mediacom cable, whatever you have, you can do that. But when it's on the streaming services, you cannot, even with those, because you have to go in and out, essentially those are apps. I mean, that's what's happening. You're on the YouTube TV app or the Hulu app. So that's the next step. And I don't know who knows, but there was that, I don't know, it's a couple weeks ago, they brought out Fox, all of them are getting together to get one big channel, which I think essentially is kind of like that. You're going to subscribe to that and it'll have all the stuff and you're going to pay $50 a month for all the sports, which I would buy because then I wouldn't buy all the other stuff. So,
all right. That's probably going to happen here soon.
Yeah. Essentially, we're going to just go back to cable.
Yeah. It's a little out of hand right now, but as you already mentioned, a great night and kind of a great stretch here for all the teams in Iowa. Who did you want to start with first?
Yeah, let's just go to the Hawkeye women. Game just got over a few minutes ago. 108-60 win. There were. I'm gonna credit Chad Lysico from the Des Moines Register. I follow. I don't know. I'm on a group chat with him that he said, and there was 5 things he was looking for. And I'm going to pull them up real quick on, and he was close. Caitlin scores 31 points to pass Lynette Woodard, which is, it's kind of weird for those of you who haven't followed. When she passed Kelsey Plum last week, that was the NCAA record. But the NCAA didn't recognize women's basketball until like 1981 or two. And so this Lynette Woodard played before. So there's a National Women's College Association record, that a lady that played for Kansas in the late 70s, early 80s, like my parents' age of people. And she had 3,647, which she passed tonight by 2 points. Caitlin Clark did. She had 33 tonight. So now the Davis guy from Mount Mercy or Detroit Mercy that was like 8 points shy of Pistol Pete, he played his 5th year and was trying to get into the big dance and didn't get it and all that. And then Maravich is at, 17 points away. So there's one. Gabby Marshall needs to start shooting the ball. She needs to hit 3 threes. She did that. O'Grady makes a difference off the bench. 12 minutes for McCabe, and she was on fire. She had 15 points and a comfortable win. No second half drama. Obviously, they won by 48 points. So he was good. I didn't watch it close enough to know if really O'Grady made a difference off the bench, but definitely the other 4 were spot on.
Yeah, he was pretty spot on there. I mean, the way they've shot the ball the last 2 games, especially, they can.
Right.
They're playing lesser teams, but they can go toe to toe with anybody in the nation. Tonight, they made 22 threes, shot 56% from 3. They shot 61% from the field, and a few whenever it was when they played Illinois a few days ago or whatever, they made 17 threes in that one. So again, it's lesser opponents, but we're getting more of the team involved. Caitlin Clark, I think, knows, the team probably knows too, that come tournament time, it can't just be her. They're going to need 2, 3, 4 others to step up, 7, 8, 10 plus points from multiple girls. And the way like I said, the way they've shot the ball the last couple of games is really impressive. We'll see how they do against Ohio State on Sunday. That's going to be a real test.
Oh, and it'll be big time. Essentially, here's what needs to happen. Much like what happened, Gabby Marshall has to hit shots. That's what got them so far last year. Is Caitlin Clark's going to score 30 to 40 points. That's just what she's going to do. And I think you can about pencil in Kate Martin for 15 to 20. I think those 2 are just solid. That's what you're going to get. You need, so there's, let's just say 35 and 20. So there's 55. So you're going to have you got to have 30 points from the rest of the team, because they're going to score 90 some every game. And so like tonight, Gabby Marshall had 16, McCabe had 15, and then you add up everybody else. That's why they had 108. Gabby Marshall's got to hit 2 threes a game. McCabe's got to hit 1. Fairbach has to hit 1 or 2. And if they do that, and Caitlin Clark gets double-digit assists, and if these girls hit those shots, she will have double-digit assists every time. And then Stolke will she didn't have a great night tonight. Looks to me like she's hurt. Do you see that too? Like just running up and down the court. I think her knee.
She's a little slow.
She's slower than she was. Yeah. And she can get up and down if she wants. I think she's hurt. And I know they've kind of talked about that a little bit, is she's battling some injuries, and I think that knee is bothering her. So, obviously on Sunday against Ohio State, you're not resting her at all. But after that, if you need to rest her, you got to rest her, because these games don't matter. I think they're locked into a 2 seed. I don't think they can get to a 1. I suppose if they beat Ohio State Sunday, win the Big Ten championship against Ohio State, you could maybe make an argument.
Texas just lost tonight to Oklahoma.
So that's big.
So yeah, exactly. And I had that saved. USC, Oregon State, and K-State all lost previously in the week. K-State again, and then Texas lost tonight. So you're right though. They'd probably have to win out the rest of the way to get a number 1 seed. But that's good that Texas lost. That helps a little bit. So we'll see there. And you mentioned that they've got a lot of girls that can come off the bench and shoot the threes. Molly Davis can go for about 8 to 12 points. Cynthia Fulter, she's an all-around just really good player. I wish you could give her Hannah Stolke's height, because she hustles, she dives after balls. She's not scared to bring the ball up the court. She shoots the 3. She's really an impressive player off the bench. So they've they can go toe to toe with anybody in the country shooting the ball, especially from three. But the defense, this is going to be kind of cliche coach talk, but besides shooting the ball well, they're going to have to out hustle other teams for rebounds, loose balls, tie them up when the possession arrows in Iowa's favor, because we're going to need extra shots for the offense at some point. Maybe multiple games, obviously, if we could make a deep run.
Yeah, really, they do play a lot like the Iowa men, where they're going to win. They're going to have to score 90 points a game to win. I mean, that's just what they do. I don't know
if they get held to below 80, they're probably losing.
Right. Just their defense isn't good enough. I don't know if it's just the players they have aren't great defenders or the scheme or whatever, but Michigan's not a great basketball team the night she set the record, but it was just both teams were just up and down scoring at will. And that's the way it's kind of been most of the year. And we're going to talk about the Iowa men here later, and they're the same way. Last night they had a good, they scored 91 points. They're going to win most games, but they still gave up 81. And then, you look at conversely, Iowa State gave up 45 points tonight. So that's.
Yeah. And then versus Illinois, I think they gave up a bunch there too. Tonight was a better defensive night. Minnesota couldn't really shoot the ball very well.
Mm-hmm.
The one thing I do wonder is, Iowa's had all these crazy road crowds this season. And I wonder if it's wishful thinking or if it'll be important. I do wonder if that's going to help them come tournament time battle tested, or if that is just wishful thinking, like I said, and it really probably won't make a difference because you still got to go make shots, right?
Yeah, you have to make shots. And, let's talk about how the women do their tournament. First two rounds, it's going to be in Iowa City. So that's what's a little bit weird to me. And I understand it. You have senior night. You never can guarantee it. Senior night is Sunday. Caitlin Clark is going to go through that. I did read that or hear that because she actually is a senior. And next year just would be her COVID bonus year. So she's going to go through her senior night along with the others. But that's not their last game at Carver. They're going to play one or two more. I mean, obviously you have to win, but one or two games more at Carver. First two rounds. A few years ago, they went away from that and they just found that they just can't draw anything. And so when you're only playing in front of a couple thousand people, it's just not worth it. So you're going to have a full crowd, Hawkeye, very centric, no matter who comes in, sold out. The regionals, they do it. There's two, instead of four regionals like the men, they do two. One's in Portland and one's in Albany, New York.
Yep.
So both of them are about as far away from Iowa City as you can get. So that will be very interesting. Now, wherever they go, whichever side they go, it will be sold out because people want to watch Caitlin Clark, and the people from that part of the country has not been able to. So it'll be sold out. But it'll be interesting to see how many Hawkeye fans go to wherever it is because it's not going to be cheap. It's not, it's just, so far away. And then the Final Four is in Cleveland, not near as bad as Portland or Albany, New York. So Cleveland, you can drive to probably about 14 hours or so, I would say 12 to 14 hours, maybe farther than that.
It is further than that. But it's not too bad, like you mentioned. And where was I going to go with this? Oh, talking about the women's side, some of the top seeds, they obviously get 2 home games. I kind of like that. You're hearing all this talk about expanding on the men's side. You and I have talked about the men's side. Really, we love it because it's action packed, but too many teams.
Mm-hmm.
And the men's would never switch this, right? Because of the crowds and everything. But it'd almost be nice for those top seeds on the men's side to get a couple of home games too. Because when you play so great all season and you're one of the top seeds, kind of like the NFL playoffs or NBA, you almost feel like you deserve a little bit of advantage starting out. I don't know if a lot of people would like that or not, but I do like that on the women's side. The top seeds get those home games.
Yeah, because a lot of the men's, especially the first round, the 11 o'clock game, that first game at whatever site it is not full a lot. Now, Des Moines, Iowa, when it hosts it, full. Everything's sold out all weekend long. But there are some places it just doesn't for whatever reason, whether it is the teams, just the community doesn't support it as well. But a lot of those, I know, this has been about 10 years ago now, but when Niang's last game, when they lost to UAB, no, that wasn't his last game, but Hoiberg's last game, when they lost to UAB, they were the 3 seed, kind of sneaky pick to go to the Final Four. There was nobody there. Nobody there. Zach, our friend Zach, was there. He's like, there's nobody there.
It was in Louisville, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I think.
And some of that was because Kentucky was there and all the Kentucky fans had bought all the tickets. Obviously, most likely probably bought the whole session pass because they didn't know when they were playing and then just didn't use them. So technically it was probably sold out. Like, obviously the arena doesn't care. They do care, but it doesn't matter as much. Hey, we sold all the tickets. We can't help it. People didn't come for that game. But so that's kind of a weird thing with the men's that the women try to get away from. And I don't know their reasoning for only having 2 regionals instead of 4, but that's just something they do a little different.
Maybe it's got to do with money. Obviously the women's side is becoming more popular now. Who knows what it is? It'd be nice if there was 4, but I do like that, the top seeds in the women's side do get a couple of home games. We'll see how Iowa does Sunday. I know game day is going to Iowa City, which would be pretty cool. They're facing one of the best teams in the nation in Ohio State. They got really good players. I hope they can win, and then we'll see how they do in the Big Ten tournament. But continuing on with women's side, Iowa State women had a big win.
Yeah, they played.
I don't know if you did.
Yep, I was kind of going. So that started at 6:30. I got home about 7. Watched the Iowa State men. They started at 7, kind of following on my phone. Saw they were leading into the fourth quarter, so I watched the fourth quarter of the Iowa State women during kind of halftime or a little before half. Iowa State men game first half was actually really boring. No one could shoot. Can't shoot. Well, there's just good defense, but that's a different argument. But yeah, so at number 15, that is a season sweep against Kansas State. They won in an epic double overtime game a few weeks ago in Ames. And what's neat about Iowa State versus Kansas or Kansas State is Iowa State's point guard is from Kansas, and then so everybody talks about Audie Crooks, the one from Bishop Garrigan, Algona, who's freshman of the week, Big 10 player or Big 12 player of the week several times. But Addie Brown is actually the McDonald's All-American that came in as a freshman, and she's from Derby, Kansas, which is by Wichita. And she had 20-some points tonight. And Emily Ryan had a great game. So the 2 Kansas players had great games against their home state school. And again, I don't know if I'm sure they were recruited by Kansas State, or at least, hey, do you want to come here? And they might not have had any interest. I mean, I can't answer that. But it's always good when you get back home and have a little more family there. I know Emily Ryan's parents come up here a lot, but it's nice when driving a couple hours down the road instead of 10 hours back and forth.
Yes, you said the season sweep of Kansas State there that Iowa State got.
Yep.
Are they, and we talked about a little before, is it pretty much they're going to be in for sure now, or do they probably need to at least win a game in the tournament?
So the guy that does the bracketology for women for ESPN, I can't remember his name, had them the other day when I looked as one of the last 4 buys. So the women's tournament expanded to the 68, I think, this year, like the men have been. Before they didn't. So they have that, the playing games as well. They were one of the last 4 with the buys. So they were like an 11 seed, but didn't have to play in that, the playing games. I would think this win, this would definitely be a quad 1 win. I think the women do the same thing as the men. And so I think as long as you don't, I think they'll have one more. They play Cincinnati this weekend. I don't know if it's Saturday or Sunday. And then their tournament starts next week as well. Their tournament's kind of weird because it overlaps into with the men. Like their championship game is until that next, like the Tuesday right before the men's tournament starts. And that's a whole different discussion that we can have. But I think things would have to go haywire for them not to get in the tournament now. Now they're not going to have home games. They're going on the road somewhere. So, but with playing a lot of freshmen, they have 5 freshmen that play a lot. Girl from Des Moines Roosevelt, whose dad was at Iowa State football when I was there, is a freshman point guard. The Addie Brown, you got another Jones sister that plays quite a bit, and then Audie Crooks and Addie Brown, the two big time recruits. But yeah, just the Cyclone women, doing what Bill Finley does. He gets the NCAA tournament. They don't always go deep. I mean, they went to the Elite Eight several times, but I think getting to the tournament with this team and getting that more experience and getting to play on a big stage and going on the road is a great step for them. And going forward, anytime you got Audie Crooks, she's good. A lot better than I thought. 1 year ago at this time, she's playing in the high school state final 1A. She played for a small private school in Northern Iowa.
Yeah, the future looks bright for Iowa State, getting the experience, maybe going on a run. Who knows what can happen? But the next 2 to 3 years, I'm sure Iowa State's going to be a pretty darn good team. So that's good that they're going to get in. And yeah, here after the conference tournament time, we'll see how the seeding comes out. See where they put everybody, and maybe Iowa and Iowa State will meet up at some point.
Yeah, because a few years ago, and we talked about this on last episode, they were a collision course to play each other in Sweet 16. Iowa got beat by Creighton in the second round, and then Iowa State got beat by them in the Sweet 16 round. So you just never know. Let's move on to the men. Let's go ahead and start with the Hawkeye men. They have played themselves squarely right back on the bubble. And Keith Murphy made a good thing I think it was today. Yeah, because they just played last night. So it was today when he was talking. He goes, as a TV guy, I got one request for you. Really 2 requests. Either win out and get in the NCAA tournament, or lose out and don't even get to the NIT. Don't make us pay attention and think we care about the NIT. And he goes, especially don't have a home NIT game where your local media companies have to go spend money and pretend we care about the NIT.
Yeah, I really haven't paid much attention to the men's side. Admittingly, I've said that on here a few times, but it would be nice to see maybe they can get in the tournament and finally make a run with Fran this year. Who knows?
This would be the year they would get to the Sweet 16.
Yeah, I mean, this would be the year, right? Because nobody's expecting them to do anything. So yeah, it'd be nice if they can get in. Obviously, Iowa State's going to be a really high seed, overall for the entire state of Iowa, men's and women's. If all these teams can get in, we're gonna have Iowa's gonna be watching a lot of basketball.
Well, and we don't talk about them on here, but Drake men and women are leading their league, Missouri Valley. I think Drake women would get in no matter what. I don't think they have to win their tournament. I think they're highly favored to win their tournament. That's how good they are. But I think they would be in no matter what. The Drake men had a bad defeat at Northern Iowa on Saturday, where they should, 91-77, I think was a score, and but they have to win the tournament now. There's just no other path for them to get, get in the NCAA tournament on not an automatic qualifier there. So, but really the storyline out of last night's game was just, a good game, and Peyton Sandfort with the triple-double and the first in Iowa men's history. That's just baffling to me. Caitlin Clark had one tonight. She had one last game. She's had 6 on the year, and I think 15 in her career. And this is the first one ever for a Hawkeye men's player. Not Lucas Garza, not the Murray twins, not Roy Marble, not Devin Marble, not Aaron White, not, you can just go down the list. There's lots of good players, You think of like a Peter Jock, score 6'6", rebound, have 10 assists. Some of those defenders, I mean, not that it happens a lot, but 10 steals. I mean, I don't know what the record is. That's a lot. But then like a Garza, he wasn't the best, but he could get blocks. He could have, points, rebounds, blocks, probably not assists, but or I think the one that kind of is, Connor McCaffrey. I think he just is like a walking potential triple double with points, rebounds, and assists, but just never quite got there, I guess.
I didn't have a chance to read it, but I saw Keith Murphy post about it on Facebook. Is Iowa the only team in the nation now with men's and women's player with a triple double this season or something like that?
I believe so.
Yeah, so that's pretty cool for both of them. I mean, basketball's in the spotlight right now, the entire state. I mean, it's not just the Iowa women, even though they're getting most of the attention. There's the Iowa State men, like we talked about, definitely can go on a run, look like they're a potential Final Four team. Iowa State women are playing at a high level. We'll see about the men's Iowa team. And you mentioned Drake and everything. Real quick, I did see a bracketology the other day on the women's side that where Iowa was playing, Iowa State, Drake, and Creighton were all in their little section of the bracket. So that's a little scary just in itself. But just the entire state, like I said, there's going to be a lot of eyeballs on men's and women's tournament because really all the teams have their own little storylines.
Yeah, let's go ahead and talk about the Cyclone men. I went to the game on Saturday. Just a sleepy performance. Down 11-2 right away. And, took the lead. Just always had a lead. West Virginia made a little run. Took the lead 51-50. And then Iowa State went on like a 14-0 run and ended up winning by like 6 or 7. And then today, first half was pretty brutal, ugly. I think they ended up with like a 3-point lead at half and then won by 13 or 14, I think. They just have to win. They are, I mean, a 2 seed, most likely, at worst a 3. And then I truly believe they could work their way to a 1. Obviously, you have to win out. And I think there's a path because of who you're going to play. And you have to win the Big 12 tournament. And I think you have to play certain teams to get there. You're going to have to play Kansas and beat them. You're going to have to beat Houston in the final. You can't have Houston get upset by somebody and go play somebody else. You got to play Houston in the final. I think Houston's a lock as a 1 seed. Even it doesn't matter if they lost in the first round. But then beat Houston in the final. And then you need a little bit of help. You need Tennessee to lose. You need a North Carolina to lose once, maybe twice coming up, which I think North Carolina still has to play Duke again, and then the ACC tournament. So they could definitely lose one or two more. But I do think Omaha is almost a lock because Kansas lost last night to BYU. So I think it definitely puts Iowa State ahead of Kansas. Now, I still think they're both going to be in Omaha, which is going to make that ticket really hard to get and going to be really expensive. But I think if it had to be one or the other now, I think at the beginning of this week it would have been Kansas over Iowa State because Kansas had beat UConn. Kansas had beat Tennessee. Kansas had beat Houston. So they beat 3 of the top 5 teams in the country. Iowa State hasn't. Now Iowa State's beaten Kansas and they've beaten Houston, but they don't have that UConn and Tennessee wins. And obviously Kansas' non-conference schedule is second to nobody, and it is every year.
For them to win out, what's a reason? What's a positive sign that you see with the team that they can, and what's a concern that they won't be able to do that? Obviously, winning out's tough, but beyond that,
well, obviously their defense is going to keep it in the game. As long as they are not called for every little foul that they commit, and they commit a foul all the time. They are the new West Virginia. They foul you every time. But as long as they don't get it called, and that's kind of the way the Big 12 plays, just in general. Houston plays the same way. So I think in conference, they're going to be fine. And in the Big 12 tournament, they're going to be fine with that. So their defense is always going to keep them in games. They've got to hit shots. Last year, you think about that game in Pittsburgh against Pittsburgh, they couldn't score. And this year they can score. It's been a little bit more of a struggle the last few weeks, to score, especially last week or so. But there's no team in America that scares. If I'm as an Iowa State fan, now I don't think I don't want to play UConn. They're really good. I'm not scared of Purdue, but you don't want to play them. I do think Purdue, everybody's going to pick them to lose early in the tournament. And I do think it's going to be kind of a Virginia situation. They got beat by a number one seed, they got lost as a number one seed. And then the next year, Virginia goes win the national title. So I do think Purdue is going to go further than people think. But I think Iowa State has maybe the team that can get them because Trey King can come out and hit a three, and he's a post guy. And I think that's how you have to play Purdue. You have to get him away from the basket. And you go small. Iowa State can go 4 guards with Trey King and move out. You can play Milan because he's a guard, but he's 6'8", 6'9". So he can guard somebody on the defensive end. So their offense is going to be what holds them back, but their defense will keep them in every game. And when you beat Houston, you beat Kansas, and you were 0.1 second away from winning at Baylor. You win that game, you're a guaranteed 2, and you're on a one-line collision course, I think, because that win at Baylor would be big.
Yeah, it'd be fun to see them make a run. And I'll make a deal with you. If any of these games are close for the Iowa women or the Iowa State men, we'll give you Caitlin Clark for a little bit, and you give us your best defender or your tallest player. We'll just make it up as we go. I don't think that's legal,
we need Caitlin Clark.
You and I can do that.
Well, here's why I would say we'll lose if they do lose when they shouldn't. Is free throw shooting. They're not good. Taylon Lipsey, great player, but like 66% free throw shooter. Our big guy, Robert Jones, 50%. And if I'm playing Iowa State, Robert Jones gets it around the basket, just hack him. Way less chance that he makes 2 free throws and makes the basket. Hack a Shaq. And
yeah, that's not great free throw percentage for sure. I know we're getting ready to take a break here in a little bit.
Yep.
Do you want to come back and maybe talk about the court storming
deals?
And
yep, we
if
can.
we have any ideas about that?
Yeah, we sure can. We're going to take a break here again. I want to thank Steve Shetler and Steve Shetler Media, Dan Bryce at DB Landscaping for getting us on there and sponsoring us and everything. The other thing, it's golf time here. We got about 4 minutes here before we take a break here. How about this? I was talking to Indian Hills golf coach today, and they won the national championship last spring. The guy that won the national championship, they have the guy that won it. This fall, he didn't play quite as well. He's still really good, but then they have another player that actually is ranked number 1 this year. So they got the defending national champ and now the number 1 player in junior college golf. And then they had the weather's been so good here. They actually went outside at Cedar Creek and Ottumwa and qualified Monday and Tuesday. On Monday, they had a kid shoot 61, tie the course record. And it wasn't the national champ or the number 1 player in junior college golf. And I told him, I go, you do realize what that means. You're really good. He goes, I really hadn't thought of that. when
that sounds like an NBA All-Star team right there, yeah. Just in golf.
Yeah. And so, 61 tied Mitch Tucker's course record at Cedar Creek.
61. I mean, that
in February 23rd or 4th, whatever.
Yeah. I obviously will never come close to doing anything like that. I would just love to play along in that group and just see it. That would be awesome.
Yeah. He chipped in twice. But it's really dry here. And that's the thing is those guys hit it so far that right now it just goes forever.
Did you play over the weekend? I saw most people where it looked like.
I did not. What was I doing this weekend?
You went Saturday, you went to the game, I think.
Yeah, Saturday I went to the game.
Yeah.
Yes, Sunday didn't feel great. I'll be honest.
Well, that happens after a long Saturday night. But no,
Yeah.
I mean, the weather's been pretty crazy right now. You got to get out there and golf. I'm kind of jealous. I haven't played yet this year, but I see everybody there back in Oski playing. So we'll see how the weather continues though into March and April.
Yep, absolutely. All right, let's take a quick break here, and then we'll come back and talk the court storming situations in basketball.
All right.